Artlist.io.
When my mind gets tired of waiting, it'd be wasted time to save this. Is it so wrong to wanna walk away from all the changes?
Music licensing reimagined.
Need to cut off my ties now. I've been living a lie, is there really a life? Don't try to save me, I'm done with patience. I'm running towards the open door. I'm taking my chances.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io.
Good evening from Japan. This is Hannah Klein's time. How are you doing today? It's early in the morning in the US and afternoon in Israel and Europe. Year 2025 is almost ending. How are you going to spend your new year? Before starting my podcast, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to Hannah's Substack on https://hannahkleinstories.substack.com. You could also subscribe from Hannah's homepage, https://officialhannahklein.com. Hannah's Substack is a reader-based articles and podcast. Become a paid subscriber today and support Hannah's work. Also, if you could donate from her homepage, that would be appreciated.
Good evening. How are you? Today's guest is very important, very interesting and very important in a way for me. I don't get nervous in front of people, but long time ago, I was just thrown into a contest with no knowledge of what speech contest was about. It was really terrible, but I won the second place because it was not in Japanese. I'm just joking. But, it was a good experience for me to I guess, encounter in a situation that I have to handle myself. My parents were not so helpful. Well, yes, especially my mother was, in a way, she was not very helping me in the speech contests. And I mean, she was, but she wasn't in the contest site. She didn't go to like Tokyo with me, etc., etc. But I learned to be independent in a way. And also, on a stage, I cannot depend on anyone. And what I see is the faces of the audience. So, today's guest, I watched some of his clips, and also I know a famous film with Tom Hanks. He's going to be talking about it. It's a very exciting podcast for me, and it's also important. I think what he says is very important for everyone. It's not just about acting, but we can also think of our lives. And I don't think that people should think it's the end of one's life because something doesn't work well, which is he talked about his experience a lot for me and for you. Yeah, it was for you. I asked him to speak about something relatable to the audience. And I thought it was a very, very important lesson that he was talking about. And I have a lot to learn right now, but I was not very outspoken person, but people change with experience and also lessons. So I hope that you will enjoy this episode and listen to our conversation. Also, you get to know about his acting sessions at the end, so please listen. Good morning. I
And good
start.
evening to you. That's okay.
It's early in the morning to you, and how are you?
I'm doing great today. Really excited about getting the chance to talk with you.
Yes, I am really. And also, I thought that I really wanted to interview you, and that's why I invited you to my podcast. And I felt I feel that it would be a great opportunity for many people to understand, what acting, life is about. And yeah, I think that, people will feel more relatable to them. And at the same time, there will be people who are interested in acting. So, yeah.
Great.
So like I have never been in involved in acting, but I have participated in speech contests only. So I don't really know about acting, but I have to do the posters and a lot of things. But that's the only thing I can understand.
Actually, you've probably done a lot of acting in your life, but you just don't call it acting because maybe it's not a paid professional gig, but people act all the time and they might not realize it.
Oh, really? But when
Hey,
I
if you're an attorney and you are in the middle of a courtroom and you are presenting a case, you're acting. If if
Yeah,
you're
you sounded like a real lawyer, really. I mean,
well, you know what? I played one. It was a very, and first of all, for people who don't know, my name's Aaron Marcus, and I've been doing acting for a long time. But there was I'm guessing maybe 3 years ago, it was a really powerful HBO miniseries called
Mhm.
We Own This City. It's a long story, but the short version is there was and it's based on real stuff. It's not just fictional.
Wow.
There were a group of police officers,
Mm,
and they were incredibly corrupt, and they would do horrible, horrible, horrible things. And
mhm.
the reason why I brought that up was because I was the attorney of one of the police officers, and
Oh.
I'm defending him in court. And yeah, I get cast quite a bit as lawyers, doctors, teachers, therapists, good politicians, people, someone who really does care about, his constituents. And so, yeah, even though I don't have a college degree, I typically get cast as someone who is highly educated and successful.
Oh, so you know what? I I heard your, well, interviews, some of your interviews, and what made me interested is, what made you want to become an actor? That's probably, probably, yeah, that was the first question that I came up with.
Yeah, and so my story's a little bit different than probably most actors or for anybody who wants to pursue something. Look, there are lots of famous musicians who, talk about ever since they were a child, they were interested and they were studying, Suzuki method, if they were, playing violin or something, and this is what they did. And a lot of actors, they started very young. My story, my story is very different. I had no interest in being an actor. I love watching TV. I love watching movies, but I never even thought it just didn't even cross my mind that this is
Mhm,
something I would do. And once again, to make another incredibly long story fairly short,
mhm.
I was a musician for 7 years, a full-time musician with my brother, and we were
Oh,
singer-songwriters and we toured. And when my brother decided that he didn't like performing
mhm.
and he didn't like traveling, not good things for touring musicians.
Oh,
Uh, I had a year's notice
mhm,
to kind of figure out what I wanted to do in my life. I was already like kind of like late 20s,
mhm,
and I dropped out of college and I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I was doing a lot of research and thinking about things, and I knew there were some things that were very important to me. Helping people was really, really important thing. It was just something I was brought up with. And so after volunteering over 300 hours at an orthopedic hospital, I decided I wanted to be a physical therapist. So I went back to college
mhm.
and I started taking all the classes I avoided all my life. I was never a great student and taking, chemistry, taking biology, anatomy, those things were interesting, but they scared me. But
Mm.
I did them, and these were all the prerequisites for applying to physical therapy school.
Oh,
And so I finished all the prerequisites and I was about to start applying to physical therapy school. Now, when I went back to school, I needed a part-time job.
no.
And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I happened to run into an actor and he told me what he did. And he did mostly TV commercials. And I thought, that's a great part-time job. Once again, no interest in pursuing it, but it's a great part-time job. Flexible hours. It's not like you have to be a waiter and work 5 or 6 days a week. It pays well when you do get a job and it seemed like it might be fun. So I started doing that kind of work, not just TV commercials, but just extra work and things like that. And I did that for 2 years while I was a full-time college student, taking all the prerequisites for PT
Wow.
school. And I started realizing I love doing this stuff. It it it, it just brought me such joy.
Mm,
And it was a hard decision. I didn't have connections.
mm,
I didn't know anybody in the industry. My family had no connection with the acting world. I had just proposed to my girlfriend. We were about to get married in like a month. She thought she was going to marry some guy who was going to be applying to physical therapy school. And I just started thinking a lot about it, and I knew that this is something I needed to try. And so I spoke with Nancy, who stole my wife, and surprisingly, considering who I am, and I said, you know what? I want to try acting for 1 year.
Mm,
I want to try it full time for 1 year just to see what it's like.
mm.
And that's turned into a 40 plus year career. So once again, my story is a little bit different than most people, but that's really, honestly, that's how it happened.
So, so for 1 year, you have tried commercials, dramas, such.
So what I was doing in that first year,
Mhm.
there were no TV shows, no feature films at that point, except for doing extra work. And there's something else a lot of people don't know about this. It's called commercial modeling. Commercial modeling, as soon as you mention something with modeling, everybody thinks of fashion models.
Yes.
Tall, glamorous, thin,
Yeah.
young women. And just so people know, if you're thinking about being a fashion model, doing runways in Paris and Milan and New York, you are going to be between 5'9" and 6 feet tall. Your measurements are going to be 34, 24, 34. If you're a guy, you're going to be between 6 feet and 6 feet 2 and a size 40 jacket. But there's a whole other world
Mhm.
out there of commercial models. Some commercial models are absolutely beautiful and incredibly handsome, and they're not doing runway work. They are doing ads in magazines, newspapers, brochures, on the internet, on packages, on sides of buses.
Oh.
And they might, if you are, this beautiful person, maybe you're doing an ad for a high-end car. And these are still pictures.
Mm.
Now, I don't fit into that category. I'm not the handsome guy. I'm the regular kind of guy. So I started getting a lot of commercial modeling work, and I was portraying the young dad. I'm a really good nerd. I'm the guy who feels sick, and it was for a pharmaceutical company. And unlike the fashion world, they don't have the height restrictions. Sometimes they hire people who are short, sometimes they hire people who are tall, people with great bodies, people who are out of shape.
Mhm.
Who knows? It depends on the product and the ad campaign. So, yeah, I was doing some TV commercials, I was doing commercial modeling work, I was doing extra work, and there was something else. Once again, a lot of people have never heard of this, but they're called industrial films, corporate or educational films, all the same thing. And I live in the States and I live about an hour away from Washington, D.C., and there are lots of government agencies there. And
Oh.
so I get hired by the Navy, the CIA, the
Oh.
DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. Actually, I had to get a secret clearance for that one.
Oh,
And
really?
or yeah, it was pretty cool. It could be an organization, it could be a nonprofit, it could be a company, and they are doing training films. Maybe it's an internal film,
Mm.
like for instance, for the Navy. One of them I was flown to, I think it's called Great Lakes. It's outside of Chicago.
Mhm.
And this is where, and once again, this is many years ago. I don't know if they still do this. They would build diesel engines for the Navy
Oh.
and repair them there. I don't know anything about diesel engines, but even at that time, I was a pretty good actor. And I was very convincing to people in this film that I could teach people how to build these engines or repair them. And so, or it could be the TSA, like at the airport, and I was playing a bad guy and they caught me and, things to look for. And this was an internal video for the TSA, training people how to be more efficient and be smarter at the airport.
Mm.
So I used to get a lot of those, especially being, around the DC area. But, people could find these kinds of jobs all over the place. And so, yeah, that's what I did for the first year. It was a number of years before I started doing anything with film or TV.
Well, I did not know that, they use actors for that because I have known myself that Army makes in Japan, uh, uh, U.S. U.S. Garrison Japan, but it's Army, headquarter. One of the headquarters in Japan in Kanagawa, Sama City. But it has like introductory film of the neighboring areas and so forth. Um, yeah, I cannot talk about, who are filming that, but they are. I thought that I did not exactly know that, like, like for commercials, like, for introductions. I did not know that, those government, institutions hire people.
Yeah,
Interesting.
but it is true. Some companies, just like with TV commercials, sometimes they
Yeah.
like to have the owners in the
Yeah.
spots, you know, and even for the government, certainly there could be some where they have employees, you know, government workers in those things. But, you know, here's a funny story. So there was one I did for another thing for the United States Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it was interesting. It was about suicide and like what if you see somebody doing something like this is what you need to do. They had already shot it, and they had it was a civilian, but it was a civilian psychiatrist who worked with the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy, you know, was the main on-camera narrator, and he was explaining things. They shot the whole film and they had to toss it out because the guy was not believable. This guy is a real
Sounds
psychiatrist,
convincing.
but he was not convincing on camera.
Yeah.
So they recast it. I was the psychiatrist.
Oh,
And yeah, so I replaced him. And so they hired me for that. So yeah, you're right. I mean, you know, there could be some government agencies or companies that just hire employees.
oh, I see.
I don't, I understand why owners of companies like to have themselves or their families, you know, say in a TV commercial, they'll have their wife or their kids. I understand why, you know, they're watching TV, they can see themselves, they're recognized on the street. I get all that from a psychological point of view. From a business point of view, I really don't get it because and look, there are some people who are just really good
Mhm,
naturally, but you know, if the commercial doesn't really work
mhm,
and it's not believable and you're
mhm.
not really getting the message across and it seems kind of cheesy and weird and
Yeah.
uh, then you're not gonna make the money that you want and expect. So my thought is hire a professional, you know,
Mhm,
somebody who actually does this stuff
mhm.
and it can make your project much more effective. But you know, I get it. You know, I understand why they do it. I just don't necessarily always agree with why they're doing it.
I see. Well, it's very interesting. So that's the start of like your career?
That's the start.
Oh.
That's how I got started. And I did something, and once again, my brain just works differently than most people. I know a lot of people, and I kind of wish my brain worked this way, where you know, people set goals. You know, no matter what kind of business they're in or what they're doing in life, they have certain goals. And some people might have goals. Okay, so after the first year, I need to earn this much money. After the first year, I need to be booking, you know, this percentage of auditions that I go on. You know, I have to, you know, have a certain amount of TV spots, whatever it is. And they have very specific goals and it's all planned out and mapped out. My brain just doesn't work that way. And the only goal that I had
Mhm.
was, well, I mean, I did have to work. I knew, you know, if I didn't book any jobs for a
You're a
year,
busy
that's
person.
not, that's not good. So I knew that was one goal. I had to work.
Mhm,
The specific amount, I didn't really have that one worked out.
mhm,
But most importantly, I had to be able to enjoy what I was doing. And I had to feel that this was bringing me what I wanted in my life. And I always felt that the insecurity of not having a steady job, I thought I could handle that just because I was a musician for 7 years. So it's not like I left a corporate job where I was getting a check every 2 weeks or whatever you're getting. But it was more of just going with, am I happy doing what I'm doing after a year? And that was my my goal, and just to reevaluate at that point. And once again, I'm not saying that that's right. It's just like, look, I do a lot of social media stuff,
Mhm.
and yeah, I've got an Instagram account, I've got a YouTube channel, where I share information with people about the industry. And I know I should be checking the metrics much more. I should be seeing how long are people watching, how many people are. My brain just doesn't work that way. And so that's why it'd probably be better if I just turn things over to somebody else to handle that end of it. But so after the first year,
Mhm.
I found I was really loving it. I
Mhm.
was really enjoying it.
That's
And
great.
like with any job,
Mhm.
there are ups and downs. There are things that don't always go well. There are things that can be difficult. There could be people that you're working with are really miserable to have to deal with. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give the impression that it's always been idyllic and just wonderful and I'm just floating in the cloud. It's a job,
Mhm.
and like with any kind of job, there are ups and downs, but you just have to learn how to deal with them. And that is something that I've gotten pretty good at.
Oh, so you have been to acting school, like you have naturally developed it.
Well, once again, I did things a little backwards. So my first couple of years,
Mhm.
well, actually, here, I'll share this one with you. So when I was first getting started, just doing it part-time,
Mhm.
somebody told me about, actually, this actor told me about an agent in my area. So I went down there and walked into her office and I said, I'm really interested in acting. And she said, okay, great. So what TV shows have you done? What commercials have you done? What movies have you been? And I said, none. I did a play in high school. Does that count? And she said, look, thank you for stopping in. We only work with professionals, people who've studied, people who've worked, but thank you. And I said, okay. And so I was walking out the door, and it was almost like a movie. My hand is on the doorknob. I'm ready to walk out. And she said, hey, well, look, while you're here,
Mhm.
why don't you just read some copy for me? Now, I had no idea what that meant, but I said, sure. So, what I learned very quickly, copy are the words for TV commercials. For film and television, they're called sides, the short portion of the script that you audition with.
Oh.
It's copy for TV commercials.
Mhm.
And so she gave me the copy for a TV spot and she wanted me to read it, see what I could do with it. So I had enough sense to say, hey, can I just go out in the hallway for a minute? I had no idea what I was doing. And she said, yeah, of course, take your time. So I went out in the hallway and I'm looking at it, came back in and I read it. And she said, actually, that was pretty good. Um, Look, I like to talk with you about representation, but you need a headshot. And I said, sure. Uh, I didn't know what a headshot was. And I said, where would you recommend that I go? And she gave me the name of a photographer.
Mhm.
And I went there. I was completely unprepared. I had no idea what I was doing. And once again, these are things that I teach people how to do, how to prepare before a session, what kind of wardrobe, what kind of expression, all that kind of stuff. So I
Oh.
walked in and said, so what do I do? And he said, make faces. So, okay. So we spent a couple hours. I made a lot of faces, and it was a
Mhm.
horrible session. There was one photo that we
Mhm.
salvaged, and that became my first headshot.
Oh.
So, kind of getting back to your question about acting schools.
Mhm.
So, for the first couple of years of doing it full time,
Mhm.
I was going on instinct. And my instincts, I guess, were okay. It was getting me work and I was getting auditions and things like that. But I got to a point where I realized my innate abilities could only take me so far. And look, there are some people who are just naturals and they just know how to do things. Those are rare people in the industry. Most of the people that you see
Mhm.
as regulars on TV shows and in movie, these people have been studying, they studied for years and years and years and years. And even if you have studied, you need to learn about the industry so you know how to run your business. And once again, those are things that I do privately with people online. And so when I realized that I needed to learn, like if I wasn't feeling something at the audition or
Mhm.
the day of the shoot,
Mhm.
I need to learn some techniques so that I can tap into what I need. So I started looking around
Mhm.
and I found, I didn't go back to college, but I just found some individual people. I found some small local classes.
Mhm.
And yeah, then I started studying, and that was a couple of years in, and did that for, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years. And every once in a while, I would go back to somebody or do a private session with somebody. And so, yeah, once again, I did things kind of backwards. It's almost like, you record an album and then you decide, okay, now why don't we practice?
Mhm.
Practice the bit. So that's kind of what I did. But yeah, I did study and that completely changed my work. And I just felt so much more prepared going into auditions and jobs.
Oh, well, when I watched some of your clips, I really felt that you were very convincing, in
Thank
this
you.
scene.
That's the
Like
goal.
you fit like, lawyer in the scene, the really, I and yeah, like, I fit, I hear that, so you have done a lot of like roles for various films and characters, in televisions and
Yeah, and all those training films, commercial modeling work, TV commercials, voiceover work, narration,
oh, okay.
things like that as well. And so, but and it's interesting. So when you were just talking about preparation and things like that, so in the movie, there was a movie that I was in with Tom Hanks. It's called A Man Called Otto,
Yes,
and
I
in
think I've watched it.
oh, you think you watched it? Well, apparently it didn't have a big impact on you.
No, I was like, oh, like,
No, and I'm just kidding with you. It was a really, really good movie. I love being a part of that. And what I was going to say is, so part of the preparation was my, and I don't want, well, the movie's already been out for a couple of years, so I don't mind sharing it. I don't think I'm going to ruin it for anybody. But there's a scene where Tom Hanks wants to be with his wife who had died. And he was at a train station and he just given up and he was ready to be with her again because he loved her so much and he was going to jump in front of a train. And so my character was the business guy who is a little bit down the platform from him. And I fall off of the platform
Yes.
and the train's coming and nobody gets off the platform to help me. People are pulling out their phones and taking videos, for I don't know, Instagram or something. And finally Tom Hanks, Otto, the guy who plays Otto, he can't believe that nobody's helping and he jumps down and he saves me from getting run over by a train, which was very nice of him. So getting back to just like preparation. So it didn't say this in the script, but my thought was that this guy had a heart attack. Some people thought he was trying to kill himself as well. I didn't believe that. It didn't seem to make sense to me.
Mhm.
And so I had to do a lot of research to find out what does it look like when fortunately, I never had a heart
Ah.
attack. And so it was very interesting just to see there are many different ways that people show a heart attack happening. Sometimes you don't even see anything, and the person just
Mhm.
collapses. But and it was really nice. I got a chance to talk with the director before we started shooting.
Mhm.
And I said, look, here's my idea. I want to run it by you before we do anything. And I explained, I think this guy has a heart attack. He goes, no, that makes sense to me as well. And that's what we wound up doing. And as if anybody who watched the movie, or if you do wind up seeing it,
Mm.
you'll see me, the business guy, and I'm walking to catch the train because it's coming. And you can see me kind of grasping my heart because I can feel these pains and I drop. And yeah, I thought it was pretty convincing. And doing, God, I'll just share this too because it seems like a nice place to share it. When I got cast for that,
Mm.
I was told that I would have a stunt double, which I certainly expected because I'm not a stunt actor. I mean, this guy falls off of a platform,
Yeah.
face down into the railroad tracks as a train's coming. And so I met the stunt double, and he had a very similar build as me. I wouldn't say he looked like my brother, but close enough. And they had his hair looking just like mine, and he was wearing the same wardrobe. And he walks out, falls off the platform, and I was standing behind the cameraman because I just wanted to watch and see this guy work. And he was phenomenal. He was really good. They did 2 takes. And then later in the day, they said, would you be comfortable trying it?
Wow.
And I said, sure, love to do it. And meanwhile, once again, the only stunt I've ever done was it was driving a car and I had to pull into a spot and hit some marks. It was not, I've never fallen off of a train platform.
Mm.
So I met with the stunt coordinator very quickly, met with some of the stunt actors,
Mm.
and like I'm a pretty good athlete, so I felt like I could handle it, but I just needed to know how to do it. And I'll tell you, I never
It
would have done
sounds
it
really
if
scary.
it was. Oh, it was scary. I never would have done it if I didn't have a stunt coordinator there to
Yeah.
guide me through the
Mm.
process. I mean, my thought was you walk up to the edge and you just fall over.
Mm.
I would have broken my neck had I
Yeah,
done that.
it's dangerous.
And he explained you've got to turn your head a certain way and your hands have to be a certain. So I felt comfortable. And I tell you, the interesting thing is, and maybe in some ways, this is it kind of sums up my career.
Mm.
It's kind of like when I was at the edge, it
Mhm.
was almost like jumping out of an airplane, which I've never done,
Mm.
but you just have to give in and you just let go. And in some ways, it's kind of like my entire career. I mean, I've done things that don't really make sense, things that maybe at some point in my life I would have said, that's too scary. I'm not going to do it. And I got to the edge and I just let go.
I see.
And as it turns out, and I know I'm assuming I know the reason why they asked me to do it.
Mm.
It was because of the way they were going to edit that scene. And if they used the stunt double,
Mhm.
then they would have to show me walking up, to the edge, cut, and then do another angle of the guy falling off. By
Oh.
having me do the whole thing, it's just one continuous take, and you don't have to cut anything. So it flowed better, and it was great. And Tom
Wow. I was
Hanks,
like, oh.
it was scary, but once again, I just gave in and just let it go. And we did it twice, just like the stunt person. But Tom Hanks made everything so easy, and he's just such a kind and humble person. And his wife, Rita Wilson, who's one of the producers, she was just also really, really sweet. So anyhow, yeah. So then I did go back, studied, and yeah, I think it's really, really important for people, once again, no matter what business you're in, to really learn the craft itself, but also understand how the business works. Look, if you want to open up a restaurant
Mhm.
and you have had no experience,
Mm.
to your mind, to do something like that. So start off at the bottom, work at a place and see what bussing tables is like, see what cleaning dishes
Mm.
and work your way up and get experience, and just like for actors, I've met a number of actors who've come out of very prestigious acting schools
Mm.
that really don't have the success that they desire and that they expected. And it's not because they're not great actors, I mean, they got great training at the acting schools,
Mm.
but what they didn't get was a real understanding of the industry. What do you do when you're nervous? How do you find an agent? How do you put together a resume that industry professionals expect? How to market yourself and try to get work on your own? How to deal with rejection on a daily basis where people are saying, you do the audition, nah, don't want you. And
Oh.
you got to learn how to handle that in a positive way so that it doesn't just drive you crazy and get you to want to run away from the business. Once again, those are things that are universal for any kind of job.
Yeah, I think that, as you say, like learning, about something, just not at school is very important for every one of us. I really think that way. And you know, um, like I'm kind of interested in, what you teach the young people, you know, the when you look maybe at the young people, maybe you look back when you were like, where you were just the beginning of the career, or, like what kind of advice do you give, like typically?
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? It's not just young people. I mean, and so I save 5 days every
Mm.
month to work with people privately online. And it's not just young people. Some of these people are, you know, 50s, late 40s, 60,
Oh,
and
really?
come from all walks of life. Some people retire
Oh.
and they decide, you know what? I want to do something fun for myself now. Or and I have a theory, not 100% sure, but I have a theory. A lot of the people who I work with who sign up for my actor career program or private sessions or buy my materials, my books and stuff, they're women. And what I find, and I hear this a lot,
Mm.
where they will say, you know what? I've done things for other people all of my life. Raised a family,
Mm.
worked. Now it's time for me to do something that I want to do for myself. And I think that it takes a lot of courage to do that. And so, one of the things, and this is a really important point, is that you can't take anything personally in this industry because when you do an audition,
Mm.
and you're probably not going to book the job, and I'm not just a pessimistic or negative kind of guy, the
Mhm.
realities are when there's a project and the numbers will greatly vary depending on the type of project, the role, but if it's, let's say it's a feature film and they're casting a certain character, it's not unusual for the casting director to get anywhere from 100 to over 1,000 headshots and resumes submitted to them because they want to
That's
audition for
that's
the
very
role.
interesting because the resumes also affect as
It can. It,
oh.
now, it can, but I want to make sure that people also know that not having a lot of industry related
Mhm.
information on your resume
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily disqualify you
Oh.
for auditioning for a role. It can, but if you have other information in your resume
Mhm.
that is really important for casting directors to see, like maybe training, maybe special skills that you have. Maybe you
Yes.
speak foreign languages, maybe you're involved in martial arts, you're a musician. There are things, and once again, those are things that I work with people online. Um, but if you have that, that can help get you an audition. And so out of, let's just say 1,000 headshots, resumes being submitted, maybe 30 people are invited to audition for the role.
Wow.
And once again, those numbers, there are no exact numbers that will vary, but I've heard that from a number of casting directors as an average. And out of those 30, one person gets the job. So when you audition, don't expect to book the job. As a matter of fact, and I think and this took me years to get to this place. I truly don't believe I'm going to book the job when I audition for it. And once again, I'm not this person who thinks that the world is caving in and everything is horrible and I'm terrible and nobody likes me. I just realize there's so many factors that go into booking and not booking a job. That's why I don't take it personally.
Mm.
Maybe I'm too tall, maybe I'm too short, maybe I'm too thin, I'm not thin enough. Maybe I remind the director of her ex-husband who she can't stand. Who knows why? And and so what I do really, I try to push this on people so they get it.
Mm.
Don't think about booking the job. And once again, this is something that's universal to you. You're going in to meet with somebody at, some investment company. Don't try to get the job. What I suggest for actors and other people is to enjoy the process. Enjoy the meeting. Certainly be prepared. And there's do a whole workshop just on preparing for an agent's meeting. But do the audition and realize it's a Saturday afternoon or it's a Monday morning. You get a chance to act. Might be 2 minutes, might be 3 minutes. It's fun. That's what you want to focus on,
Mm.
enjoying yourself. So having a good time at your audition, that should be your number one goal. Once again, get rid of the thought of booking a job. Second goal is learn from it. If you finished and you think, well, maybe I should have done something else,
Mm.
uh, then see why you did things that way. If you're doing self-tapes, which most people do today, although for TV commercials, especially in LA and New York, sometimes people are still going in, but you could also have a live audition. And so try to learn from the audition, but don't even think about it. And just remember, if you're a good person and you don't book the job, you're still a good person. If you have a dog and your dog loves you, or you have a spouse and your spouse loves you, they're still going to love you. You know, don't base your self-worth on how many jobs you get and how much you're earning, because to me, that's a dangerous way to live.
Mm.
Because at some point, no matter, even if you're incredibly successful and you're starring on a TV show, you hear about so many actors who had tremendous success and
Mm.
they surround themselves with yes people and people who, say how great they are and they're supporting a lot of people and that's the only thing that's making them happy. At some point, people are going to stop asking for selfies. And at some point, when you're not getting the jobs that you used to get, people are going to start thinking, oh, yeah, I kind of remember that person from a long time ago. And people aren't going to be asking for autographs and things. And then, if everything was based on how successful you were, you're going to be a miserable human being.
Mm.
So just understand that none of these decisions are personal. I assume when I'm auditioning for something, pretty much everybody's going to be offering a really good audition. And then it comes down to factors that you have no control over. So don't take things personally in this industry. And one other thing I'll end with this, no doesn't mean never. And so if you don't get, the agent to sign you to a contract, doesn't mean never. You didn't book this job, doesn't mean never. No doesn't mean never.
I see. Well, I think it's really relatable to me in a sense. I mean, I'm much younger, probably. But I was not very good at speaking to people. Yeah, I was very kind of like shy, when I was younger. And after a while, my family, especially my mother, suggested that I should maybe speak up more. She just threw me into a speech contest. I had no idea what I was going doing, but I did terrible, really. But that was, the start of how I started to learn to maybe not just, interact, but, not, I mean, not just make a speech, but to interact with people in a better manner, I think. I learned a lot of things and I had to learn a lot of things, you know, I thought that, your acting, I really have to say that, your acting is something very convincing. There's something very convincing about, the acts that you make, really. And I don't know what it is, but you have, that something, and you probably like maybe in yourself. And that's, something, yeah, important, I think, for maybe not just, the good looks, being tall, but, or whatever. But, I think that everything, every factor decides, what kind of, I guess, uh, what kind of actor a person is. And that really reflects like the roles that, a person plays. And, that shines like in, I think, a drama, really. I really love watching dramas personally. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And by the way, you're incredibly brave because speaking in front of people, from what I've been told, is one of the scariest things, phobias that people have. They would rather jump out of an airplane than to have to speak to a group of people in a room. And so for you, even though you were saying, well, it wasn't great because you were, scared, to actually just do it, what an accomplishment. And you should be feeling so unbelievably proud of yourself for doing that. And now you've got a podcast where you are interviewing people. That's really, it's unbelievable
I
just
feel
what
very
you're able to
grateful.
do. Well,
Yeah.
you should, because you've done a lot and things that most people are scared of. And it's just like with, with acting, I can't tell you how many people I run into and they say, I've always wanted to be an actor. And
Mm,
but, I had a family or I was a full-time student or I had a full-time job. And people will give all kinds of reasons why they couldn't do something. But I think what it really boils down to is they're just too scared and they don't have the courage to do it. And it was just like for me so I worked in, they're called secondary markets for my first 4 years. It was Maryland, DC, Virginia.
mhm,
Um, and then I started moving into Philadelphia and then New Jersey. And then when I felt like I was ready, I decided to hit New York. And I thought, I'm ready to do this. And there were a bunch of people who would tell me, Aaron, you really think they're going to need somebody from Baltimore in New York? They already have millions of actors up there. Look, you're just going to get your heart broken. Don't do it. I'm telling you, it's going to be really tough. And what I learned from that was that these people really weren't concerned about my cardiac situation. They didn't have the courage themselves to give it a try. And they didn't want to see anybody else succeed. And I knew that I could go to New York
mhm,
and fall flat on my face and be okay. Now, I wouldn't be happy,
mhm,
but I knew that if I did it in the best way possible, I was fully prepared, and it didn't work out, I could let it rest. Just like with acting full time. If it didn't work out, I could let it go and find something else. But I knew that if I didn't try it,
mhm,
every time I saw a national TV spot or a movie or a TV show that might have been shot there, I always would have been wondering, what if? I wonder if I could have done that. And I didn't want to have those nightmares of always wondering what if. So not having success, I could live with that. Once again, I wouldn't be thrilled. I could live with that, but not trying it, I couldn't. And so I think that's true for a lot of people, no matter what it is in your life. And I can say a lot of people I know, they don't act full time. They have other things that are going on in their life. They do it on a part-time basis. And so for a lot of people, maybe booking one or two jobs a year, doing extra work on something. That's all that they're looking for. And so whatever it is in your life that gives you joy and you feel passionate about, doesn't mean you have to give up your, work as an orthopedic surgeon to try to become a professional bowler or something like that. But, listen to yourself, and life is short. You don't want to feel like you haven't done something that you really want to do. But the important thing is make sure you get the right information, because if you don't, you're not being fair to yourself.
Mm,
And so find an industry professional who not only has the experience, has the information, but also can teach you in a way where you can learn. I once left a class. I love the guy's theories, and I studied with some of his disciples. But when he came to my area to do a special class, I walked out because the guy, I disliked him. I
mm,
disliked what he did in the class. I thought he was mean-spirited to people. Some people loved being, thrown around and being told how horrible they are and how he knew how to push people's buttons and say negative things and make them cry. And they felt like, oh, I'm really an actor now. I'm crying here. I, I don't take abuse well. And I just thought this is not a good teacher for me. And I left. So make sure you also find someone that you feel comfortable with. I'm not saying you have to love the person, but someone that you feel you can learn from. And it's a learning style that works for you as well.
that's I think that is really important for us, like not just in acting, but
Sure.
I really believe that, the reason why I wanted to win the speech contest. It was not about winning, but I saw the final, and that time, the final, like half of the audience was native speakers. So that means that they could understand my joke. And, so I started to have a desire in my head. Like, if I make half of the audience laugh, probably the rest of the half of the audience will. And that was like something I started to think. And then, I just started to make a speech. And, it was a really, really funny speech. And it was about like traveling alone, having like ear infection most of the time. Well, first of all, I got bitten by a Doberman.
Not a good start.
Yeah, that was the start of the day. The very first day I was bitten by a dog. And it was okay. I went to a doctor, and then, she just, cleaned my fingers, but, it was okay. She was very
No
old.
rabies.
And then,
You didn't start feeling the urge to chase cars or anything, did you? Or
and then, and then I had ear infection. You know, that was like the first time I was away from my parents. Like I was sick. And I was staying with my mom's friend, but still like she was like, "No." You know. But that was a really funny story. And then I just made it into a really, really funny story. But what is important for me, why I think that, what is important for me is that it has to be understandable for the audience, right? I think,
sure.
I think that when I look at your performance, like you're outstanding. I really think so.
Thank you.
Yeah, in that manner, I started to learn, to how to convey like message to people and, stay focused, as you say. Like that's very, very important. And so I have to say I have won a speech contest, but I wasn't really serious about it because I was enjoying just speaking in front of people. And I think that, has to be, uh, well, that was something, I started to remember when I started podcasting, you know, how fun it was to speak to people. I mean, it's I'm speaking for by myself, like, but uh, at the same time, that means there are people who are listening to me. So, and also I have a guest now, and I have had many guests, and I have a person, like you on my podcast, and every time I think it brings excitement. I really invite people who I really would like to speak to as well. And so, like, I I think that what you say is very important for, you know, the Japanese people, who are not, who are maybe trying to speak English, in some ways. They need to, learn the expressions. And, and I think that watching dramas, like, um, and learn, not just the pronunciation, but, the nuance of,
That's
what is happening is, I think, very, very important. And yeah, I really, really would like to suggest you films and dramas. And it was really exciting for me to, yeah, watch what you sent me. And I looked for some of the clips that was online. It was really, really exciting. And I was just, wondering what was so convincing about it. Yeah, that's something I really was wondering.
yeah.
And, I think it was something very special. I really love watching movie from 1940s, like the US movies, comedies. I have watched many films up to 2000s. And, I have wasted a lot of time, but I really love it.
It's not a waste of time.
Exactly.
Spent time spent well. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, people really need to have some laughs, or feel something, when they want to feel something. It doesn't have to be like pleasure, but when they want to feel something, I think that like watching drama is one way to maybe think or feel, both in
Yeah.
both ways. I really feel that way. So, I thought that, yes, I thought that your acting is great. And, that's something I really, first of all, that was my impression. And, I hope that maybe in the future, maybe if there is a Japanese person who is interested in your session, maybe they may be able to uh take part, or
Yeah. What people can do, I've got a website
Mhm,
and it's just howtoactandmodel.com. And it's all spelled out, MODEL, because I know in some countries it's MODLE, but
mhm,
it's howtoactandmodel.com. Yeah, and you can click on the mentoring program
mhm,
and you can read about it and sign up. You can also click on the YouTube icon on the channel. So you have access, and I have over 500 free quick tip videos, and people should subscribe there and click the notification bell so they always know when a new one is uploaded.
mhm,
Um, and you can sign up to be on my email list from the website as well, send out free industry information. And they can follow me on Instagram. It's just Aaron R. Marcus, Aaron R. for Robert, Marcus. And I share videos and industry information there as well. And there are some other social media platforms you can always find on my website also.
mhm. Yeah, I am going to post your social media information,
Oh,
and of
thank
course your website URL, so that, not just, the Japanese people, but there are people from the United States who are listening to this, so they will be able to look at your website, your social media site.
Oh,
So,
great. Thank you.
so I think that it's about time, and thank you so much for coming to my podcast.
Oh, Hannah, thank you
I
so much
feel
for inviting
so
me.
grateful that I had you, and I was so anxious. I was really.
Oh, oh, well, hopefully you calm down a little bit. And yeah, I mean, look, sometimes we do see people that make us a little uncomfortable for, a whole variety of reasons. They could be
No, not
good
just
reasons,
anxious,
but
but I was so excited about it.
oh,
Like,
well, the thing that I've learned is that, look, we're all people, we're all human beings here. We're just trying to live a good life, or hopefully we're trying to live a good life and trying to help others and to me, and not everybody lives that way, and I'm not being judgmental in any way. It's a way that makes me feel good, to try to help others, in a small way. And so, anyhow, thank you for all your kind words and for all that you do in this world and for sharing such great information with, lots of people, throughout the world. And so, anyhow, I just wanted to say thank you, and it's been such a pleasure talking with you.
oh, it's such a pleasure talking with you, and I hope you have a nice day.
Thanks, and I hope you have a good night's sleep.
Thank you.
See you, Hannah.
Bye.
Artlist.io.
And my mind gets tired of waiting. It'd be wasted time to save this. Is it so wrong to wanna walk away from all the changes?
Music licensing reimagined.
Need to cut off my ties now. I've been living a lie, is there really a life? Don't try to save me. I'm done with patience. I'm running towards the open door. I'm taking my chances.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
You never know when to give up. But through the long days, wishing I could see your face. I would give it all to pass this place and move on. Ooh, don't try to save me. I'm done with patience. I'm running towards
Artlist.io.
the open door. I'm taking my chances. Out in the wilderness, the endless void. Never been alone like this, but I'll be ready.
Music licensing reimagined.
Never been alone like this. Never been alone like this. Never been alone like this. Never been alone like this, but I'll be ready.
Artlist.io.